Hello, people. This is Good Nature Kitty back for another Thursday vlog, and I'm gonna do things a little differently today. I decided every now and again I should probably have a day to reflect on a lot of the progress I'm making because here I have all these goals that I set out to do, and lately I felt kind of mm, like I haven't been wanting to work on my progress journals as much. Like haven't been wanting to film out. And what I find is a lot of times I'll go to bed without doing one on one day, and then the next day I have to fill up for the day before and that day, and it's like, ugh, I hate that. um, and along with that, I found that I've been kind of like a little hard on myself too, and I think I need to, like it's good for me to want to be disciplined and want to really work towards my goals and everything, but at the same time, I think I need to be grateful for the progress I've made. So I've got all this, and I'm going to reflect on changes that I've successfully made. I'm not going to look through every page or anything of like my goals, and I got my sketchbooks here too. That's why it's such a big, heavy pile. And then this here is basically my pencil box. I guess I didn't need to bring that, but anyway. um, so I just I feel like it's easy to lose sight of where you've done good and to concentrate on where you've gone wrong. Like for example, like these past couple weeks, I'm still doing my goals and everything, but I also find that I spend, with all the days off and everything, because I've actually had a lot of days off, partly from vacation time, and I also got Memorial Day off, and it's really, really nice. But in the back of my mind, I keep thinking I should be putting a lot of this time into drawing and cleaning and all that stuff. And if I really stop to think about it, I am still putting time into those things because I have like day to day showing where I've cleaned and exercised and stuff. Um, but at the same time, I've been putting a lot more time into video games. I was doing half hour on days of work and hour on days off. That's kind of gone out the window. And I think it's just a matter of me wanting to escape from some of the stress that has happened in the past couple of months. But, you know, enough of that. I'll probably discuss next week some of my plans to remedy some of that because I have thought of ways that I can help some of the things I'm going through. I just really feel like today I can reflect on the goals I've made and where I've gone from there. So my goals, they first started out as like in January, I started out with I'm gonna read daily verse each day, or that's what I call it, daily verse. But anyway, I'm going to draw or paint each day in order to work towards the goal of like having my stuff in an art fair. Um, that was my main focus, was to get to the point where I can put my stuff in an art fair. And well, to be honest, like when January started, I was a little scatterbrained on how I was going to go about to get to the point where I could put my stuff in an art fair and everything. And summer's coming. I don't have a lot that I'd want to put in, sadly. But we'll get to that another day. Um, so I made it so that my goal would be to draw and paint each day. And then and that's in February when I set it up perfectly like that by the looks of it. This says February 13th. So I don't know. Um, not sure. But I started rating myself on the drawing paintings day, and I got to a point where I stopped rating myself, and then my the amount of attention I put into it kind of went downhill. So I started rating myself again, And then I put exercise, and I believe my goal, real goal, my huge goal was to get down to size 12. Um, and that was my way of trying to push myself to where I'd want to exercise more. So exercising's been my daily goal as well. And then in the beginning, my goal was to do 5 boxes of junk, like get rid of 5 boxes of junk. I've long done that. That's in the past. In fact, I imagine if I scroll through this, I could find what day I actually accomplished that. Um, all I know is now I'm doing deep cleaning on each of the rooms, and I've been stuck on this kitchen because like that's the biggest one. I figured I want to hit the one that's gonna take the most work. And there's been things that has pulled me away from the kitchen, got me into other rooms, of course, because dirt happens. Sometimes you gotta. Okay, I see when it was. Oh, so it looks like it was actually April 15th was the last day that I did junk box, and then I started on the 16th of April. So it's been about a little over a month. um, but anyway, I I'm just thinking that here I feel like less motivation and stuff, and by focusing on these things of where I've gone with it and why I keep the goals in progress and everything, I think that would be a good way to remotivate myself and to not be so hard on myself because honestly, we as people do tend to lose focus on what we've done good and we kind of get to focusing too much on where we've gone wrong. So, um, so I'm gonna focus on what I've done good today. But anyway, like looking over the journal and everything, I have a lot of twos and threes for the ratings. Every now and again, I do rate a one, and then I try to make consequences for those days when I didn't quite do as good, and I try to make a day where I put a lot more focus into it, and I might even take away my time with video games and watching TV and stuff. Um, lately it's been harder to encourage myself to do that. Cause I don't know. I think it is that I want to escape and stuff from some of the stress I've gone through. And then I've actually done this rosacea book, and that's only started on the 2nd of May to try to show how food, the food I'm eating, might affect how my rosacea looks. Yesterday I did bad though. I I had something that turned out to be quite cheesy, and I was supposed to cut down on dairy. But anyway, looking over this regardless, you know, if I'm to think about where I was before I started doing this, before I set up the goals, and even if I were to think about where I was before I started editing out things in my diet and just put more of my focus on fruits and vegetables, I really have come a long way. And I started out, oh, I don't really have anything that tracks when I started eating healthier, but I'd like to say that it was probably in September, October when I started editing my diet. And I could actually look over my vlogs and find the exact day, which I should probably have done. But regardless of that, I was at a point where, I was going from, I was currently at a size 18 and I was starting to get big enough to where I was fitting into a 20. I I was having female issues, a hormone sort of thing, according to the gynecologist that I was seeing. she was trying to put me on birth control and it was causing things to be really out of whack. Everything from my monthly to also my um, mental illnesses. I started noticing I was more suicidal while taking birth control, which turns out to be a thing. I read up on it. It does happen. Um, but she was very persistent in that I was going to be on that birth control. Not only was I going to be on that birth control, but she was going to have me on these, I don't know, some sort of hormonal pills. And I got tired of it. I was like, no. I didn't say it to her face, but I probably should. But I felt backed against the wall. And I kept trying to bring up things to her like, maybe I can look at what kind of foods I could be eating or something. And I'd ask her what foods would help with this, and she would change the subject. Because it's kind of how doctors are. They want to prescribe you something, and not all doctors are like that. There are ones that'll be like, well, if you stop eating some of this and work more on that, then it will help as well. And that's the type of doctor that I really wanted at that time. And I felt so defeated by the way she was and everything. And I was watching all these videos at that time on how nutrition can make such a difference in our health, mentally, physically, and everything in between. And um, it was it was making me think that maybe I do need to make some huge changes in my diet. And at that time, you know, my husband and I, we'd get off work, we'd go to, well, our biggest go-tos was Sonic, Wendy's, um, Burger King, which I wasn't that crazy about Burger King. Lucas was more of a Burger King person than I was. I think my favorite was Wendy's because it some of their food felt a little more real to me, I guess. But I loved milkshakes. I loved burgers and fries and stuff. Even though, like, at the time that I was eating it, it felt good. Because I'd come off work thinking I have to have something that's going to make me feel good. But not long after eating it, I'd always feel bloated, worn out, and just had really low self esteem. Didn't feel but good about what I was doing. Um, but upon going on the diet, I need to stop playing with this box. I don't know if you can hear me, but I keep flipping up and down on the box. Upon going on the diet, now when I do eat out, a lot of times it'll be for my lunch break, and it'll be because I didn't pack lunch. But I'll go to Golden Corral and I'll do mostly veggies, and for meat, usually I'll do like their fish, not the fried fish, but the one that they seem to put paprika and stuff on. Not, I mean, it'd be somewhat healthier than some of the other meats I'm thinking, but I love fish because it provides omega-3 fatty acid and stuff. It's really good for fighting off mental illness. Um, and then I also go to Noodles and Company, and they have this bowl that actually I probably shouldn't eat because it's got gluten in the sauce, but I've tried some of their other stuff and it's like, oh. But now they even have it so that you can get zoodles, as they call it, zucchini noodles. So I'll get that. And the one that I really love is the Japanese pan noodles. It's got like broccoli and these black sesame seeds and carrots and mushrooms, and it's so good. But I've tried other things and it's like it's not the same. It's just not the same. The sauce isn't as good and stuff. So it's one of the few things that I do that has gluten in it, and I try not to do it too often. But anyway, um sometimes I'll also go to Chipotle, but that's not during lunch break sort of thing because Chipotle's a little further away. But since I'm cutting out gluten for the sake of my rosacea, because I've cut out dairy and gluten, processed foods pretty much, and a lot of processed foods. I mainly just drink water. I carry around my water bottle that has a filter on it, and yeah. But anyway, I I'll get the rice bowl though anyway when I'm at Chipotle's. Like, well, I guess it's not called a rice bowl. I think maybe they call it like a burrito bowl or something. And I won't get cheese or sour cream or anything like that. I just mainly get like rice, beans, meat, and lettuce pretty much. And it's so good. Oh, the salsa too, of course. And it's so good. But I don't go to burger joints anymore. Um, and whenever I go to get pizza, I do no cheese and gluten-free crust, and I put veggies on it. So I've come a long way on that aspect. Um, a long way. And when I started editing my diet, that's when I got to where I wanted to do other things. And that's why when January came, I really decided to put in these heavy goals. Like 5 goals, my gosh. But I've been sticking to it. Isn't it 5? Yeah, it's 5. No, it's 4. Oh, anyway, 4 goals. But yeah, it's been it's been good though. Like I used to have a lot more anxiety attacks at work. I used to get so overwhelmed at the calls, and there was one time when they caught on a recording of one of my calls that I kept uttering the words, I want to die, I want to die, I want to die, because the guy was stressing me out so much. This was well before I started editing my diet. The guy was like accusing me that it was my fault that his cable went off. Turns out it was rebooting though. He just needed to chill out. And if I would have been a little more calm and collected, I would have realized that his cable box was just rebooting. Because I'm actually internet tech to begin with, so I don't know too much about cable, but now they have us doing a little bit of cable troubleshooting too, which I hate that. I really do. I don't know a lot about cable, so if they ask me things like, should I unplug the cable box which, and they try to tell me, well, it's this cable box, I get a little confused because we were not trained at all in it. They were just told, okay, you're doing cable troubleshooting. It's like, how? I don't know, it's too much for me, but I do it anyway because we're told to, and I'll pull over a supervisor and ask him what the hell to do half the time. Um, anyway, sometimes I actually get their cable working, which is nice. But anyway, so like I don't have as many anxiety attacks at work. I don't come off work feeling completely beat like I used to because I used to do that. I used to like come off work like my head just completely filled and I was just so anxious and that's why I'd want to go straight to Wendy's. And I don't do that anymore. I don't come out there feeling completely uneasy. And that's nice. That's really nice. And since eating healthier, I haven't had to worry about female issues as much. Like things seem a lot more regulated, and that's nice. And I won't talk about that too much because I know, like, for a lot of people, that's EU stuff. But it's true. I feel a lot more regular, and now my rosacea, on the other hand, like I sometimes I do seem to notice, like it seems like it's clearing up, but there's always something non-food related that can cause it to go back into overkill. And I notice that a lot of times it could be stress. So lately I've been working on meditation to calm myself down. And I've also known it to be sometimes if I'm exercising, like if I do aerobic exercises, it gets really bad, so I had to stop doing that. And I have to do things like Pilates and walking and stuff like that, which, I'll talk about that more next week because I did come up with a way to where I'm going to get better on the exercise. Um, anyway, um, yeah, like, I feel like it was getting to the point before I started dieting where I was actually getting these clusters, like they're being smaller of these huge clusters, like, and just stuff like that. And I've even noticed that I don't get sick as much. Like, I used to get strep throat whenever my husband would, and I found now whenever my husband gets strep throat, I actually don't get it. And it's almost like my immune system has gotten stronger, and that's nice. So, as far as like the exercising too, I'm just when I do exercise more often and everything, I do notice I get a lot more self-confidence, and I find myself like more energy, and I get rid of like the anxiety too, and that's all really nice. And that's definitely something that I enjoy. Um Now for the drawing, I feel like I've come a long way in my drawing for my goal to draw more often and everything. Um, I have this whole thing filled from, well, actually, well before I started working towards my goals because it's actually dated for August 28th, 2017. That's when I got the book and everything. But like, if I look back to January when I started making it a goal sort of thing, there for the longest time I wasn't doing it quite as often as I'd want to, but at some points I started doing it using the book every day. And some of them it's like practice stuff from like how to draw books and whatnot. Like this, for example, that's from my How to Draw Everything book. And then you get further along, and there's like where areas where I've done tutorials from like my apps, like these here, all tutorials. um, but this whole book is filled. I've I've done so many drawings, and I feel like it's gotten better. It got better as I got further along. Like I did this one. I'm coming towards the end of the book, and I actually had a lot of fun doing that picture, honestly. Um, because there's a lot of like the expression. It feels kind of genuine to me. But I've got this one now, and I don't like this one as much as the black one, to be honest, because the sheets are a little more thin. You can kind of see through them a little bit. But I'm still working on pictures and that, and I've also been putting into this. Here I've been doing ones that I'm a little more serious about, where I feel like maybe these would be drawings that I'd be more likely to put into an art fair. Some of them I have to redo because, well, for example, the one of my grandpa and dad and Uncle Oli, I kind of have stains on it, so I kind of ended up. It's embarrassing to say, but I actually ended up slobbering on it because I got so focused. I don't know. This is gross. I felt so bad afterwards. I was like, why did I do that? But I'm probably gonna redo that one because I do like where it went, and I think it would be fun to like put into an art fair. And I did some my self portraits. I did some of Audrey Hepburn, and I love Audrey. She's so pretty. Um, Here's the last one I did of Audrey Hepburn. Pretty, right? Um, Not as good as the one I did before that, but I did learn from that one that I really got to work on jewelry because this earring she's wearing, it was a lot lighter in the picture. But I get to where I feel like I have to really trace things in. And then what I'm doing now in here is I'm trying to get to a point where I can draw things that are basically from my imagination. So as a practice route to drawing people that don't really exist, I'm drawing characters from the game that I'm currently playing. And it's called Stardew Valley. The first one I was doing is Alex. I was trying to draw what he'd look like in real life. It looks kind of goofy, but I'll show it. I don't know. I don't really like Alex, to be honest, but I was thinking I'd draw each one of the characters. And I might not do it in this book after all. I might do it in the red one because, this is practice. But Alex might just be the only guy that ends up on these papers. I'll show you the first one I did because I feel like it's a little closer to what he looked like. The other one, I tried to be a little more realistic about things, and it didn't turn out as good as I'd like. But here we go. This is the first one I did. And it looks a lot like him, I think. But I need to do it in my smaller book, just a practice book. Because it's more so for fun than something that I would be serious about, as it turns out. I just need to get into a method to where I can draw people, fictional characters, in a way that where they would look more like they could actually be people. And maybe I do need to practice more drawing actual people before I get into that. It's just I'm trying to think, I enjoy doing portraits more than anything, but I'm trying to think along terms of if I were to sell my artwork, what sort of portraits could I do that would pull people in and make them want to buy it? Because honestly, you think about it, who's really gonna want to have a portrait of someone they don't know? What sort of picture would it take for them to actually want to have that sort of portrait? And the response that I've come up with in my mind is it would have to be someone that somewhere down the line they kind of can, it's kind of something like they know about through a story, or just it would have to be either that or something to where it's just that captivating to where it pulls you in. And a lot of times you think about the sort of portraits that people would have in their place, and they might have like fictional characters from a fantasy world, or they might have like pictures of people from like another era, maybe someone who's really glamorous. They'll do a lot of times stars, or they'll do people who are supposed to depict stories that they remember reading about as a kid, maybe. So, for example, like you might have like someone's depiction of a Cinderella, or you might have like someone with a picture of a mermaid, or which would be the fantasy theory sort of thing. But I don't know. Or they might have a picture of Marilyn Monroe, which would be the star sort of thing. But I don't know if I were to do like famous actresses. I think there's a way I have to do it to where it doesn't become a copyright sort of thing. I'd have to read up on that because I remember my teacher teaching like when I was in high school that you have to be careful of that sort of thing. So I'd have to probably put the name of the photographer if I did do like pictures of famous artists and stuff. Um, but anyway, I feel like I have been putting a lot of progress and a lot of effort in my art, and here I am even now trying to think of how I'd go about selling portrait art, trying to really plan it out. And I might even be, it might be beneficial for me to look up what portrait artists often do. I know it could even get to the point where maybe I could try allowing people to hire me on to draw portraits, but I don't know how often people do that anymore. And I'd feel really nervous about it, honestly. I'd want to be at my best. So even if that ends up being something I want to look into, I'd really want to practice up my drawing skills majorly so I can get really accurate about how well I draw their portraits. But I don't know. I'm gonna look into that sort of thing. Just figure out what a lot of portrait artists do and how they make it work for them. Because I know they'll like do historic things and they'll do fantasy things. I want to see what would sell best and what would be recommended these days and whatnot. Um, Now looking at the other goals for the cleaning, I'm really proud that I did get rid of 5 boxes of junk. And I know I still have a lot of stuff, but when I think about what I have right now, it's really cut back a lot. And it's to the point where I can kind of have more of a place for almost everything. There's still stuff I don't really have a place for, but even if I did get rid of the 5 box junk, there's still stuff where I'll look through it and I'll say I don't really need this, and I still have a box where I'm putting stuff into it for stuff that I'm eventually going to get rid of. So I haven't exactly completely put a halt on getting rid of stuff. And it feels good to get rid of that stuff, but there's some stuff that I'm so attached to because it has so many memories that it's hard to do. So moving on to cleaning afterwards has been good though, because growing up, my mom, she was a really clean person and she kept things so nice, and she tried to get us kids to do the same, and both of her daughters didn't really pull up those skills as well as we should have. And I don't know if it's because maybe she pushed us too hard or if I'm not sure why. Because she did like get us to do chores every day. Well, not every day, kind of every day. She'd constantly get on to us to keep our rooms clean. Um, we would alternate a lot of times, my sister and I, on who's gonna vacuum and who's gonna dust on days that we would clean and stuff. And we would, and she would have us do dishes and stuff like that. And I hated doing dishes because mom and dad smoked and they liked to have the ashtray cleaned, and anything that had to do with smoking grossed me out and make me feel dirty. Ugh. My sister would insist on trying to include the ashtray, and at that point, I'd want to escape because it would gross me out. So, as I got older and my sister eventually moved away, and I started doing dishes, but next side to my dad, I would actually escape when he'd get to the ashtray, and he's okay with that. We just do most everything else, and he'd usually wash while I rinsed, so it wasn't so bad. But I feel ashamed by the fact that I never pulled up that trait of my mother's to keep things really clean. But I think by having one of my goals is cleaning, it's going to be really beneficial because maybe I can make it into a permanent habit. And I have noticed that since I have it as a goal, I've been more likely to pick up after myself. I've been doing dishes more often, which is good. I have like clean sink and organized cupboards and clean stove, and it's nice. It feels so good to be at that place, and I want to continue to make that my goal until it becomes a habit. Because now there's all sorts of theories on how long it takes to make things into habits, and each one of the goals that I put down, I want them to become permanent habits. And the theory that I feel like might be most accurate is the one that you have to work at it for at least a year before it becomes a formed habit. Because like it'll start to feel like a habit, but there's always those chances that you'll drop off and stop doing it, and then you'll go back to your old ways. And so I'm gonna go by that theory, and I'm gonna track my progress all the way up until January. And then when January comes along, I will make new goals to form into habits. And I might keep cleaning on there possibly because technically considering that it was only all the way up till April that I started doing the whole cleaning thing, I feel like I'll need to track it a little longer to make sure that it stays a habit. Possibly if year is really accurate on how long you have to try to keep a goal. But anyway, just reflecting on all this, it does make me feel good to think about where I've been going with progress, and it does take a lot of stress off me of thinking, oh, but I could go so much further because that does become my mindset is I need to put more and more and more and more time into drawing and cleaning and exercise and stuff. And the fact of the matter is I'm doing these things every day. And some days I put more time into it than other days. Like even when I'm at work, I'll like draw and draw and draw while I'm at work between calls, and sometimes in between while people are checking for their ports to if they're trying to figure out which port's active for their internet or things like that where like I'm waiting for on a customer to finish finding something or doing something. Um it keeps me calm at work to be honest, which is nice. Um so I feel like I'm gonna do this every now and again, just do a progress check on where I'm at and how far I've come because I feel it's really important that I make note of the fact that I'm making these changes. I'm doing these things, even if I don't feel like I'm doing enough of it, even if I feel like I play too much video game or watch too much YouTube or lately Hulu because Hulu I haven't really checked on it for the longest time, and I decided to check on it one day and discovered that it now has Family Matters and Full House, and I got so excited. So I've been watching a lot of that every now and again. Oh, I love Steve Urkel. He's so awesome. But anyway, um, oh, I usually don't like Hulu for the fact that there's commercials, but if they're putting that sort of stuff on there, I think I'd like to see him put in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air next. That'd be awesome. I love old 90s sitcoms. It reminds me when I was a kid. But anyway, um, it's good for me to focus on the fact that I'm making progress. But I'm gonna end things here. Next week, I'll pick a back up on talking about where I'm making progress and what sort of changes I want to make to further my progress and stuff like that. I've even come up with some theories on how I need to go about getting back into walking, but I'll talk about that next week. Um, I do thank you guys for watching. I'll be back next Thursday, and bye bye.